Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Well, here we are, Taco Tuesday, or whatever you want to call Tuesday. We are back at it once again. It is hashtag Real Race Talk. Showtime Bobby Chaffee is down south. I'm Rodney Rodriguez. I'm up north. We have the whole 35 thing covered right here as we get ready to bring you more hashtag Real Race Talk. Good stuff coming up tonight. Coming up at 6:50, 6:50, we will talk to Stephen Whitaker. Big win there at TMS. And then coming up at 7:25, Jonathan Langham joins us. But Robert, how are we doing on Tuesday, my friend?
Doing much better than we were on the Monday with all the Texas Motor Speedway hangover, so to speak. But, Taco Tuesday's in the house. Got some stuff working in the works to try to get some stuff going for this upcoming weekend. So all in all, I guess Tuesday hadn't been all that bad.
Yeah, it's always one of those things, and again, a big deal there for Texas Motor Speedway getting the race in and all of that good stuff. I'm just glad that there were people there, and it seemed to be a good reception. So good for the old place there. But Bobby, I think one of the things that I'm always, especially the last few times that we've been there, and even Dakota for the NASCAR race, man, we got to give, and I still don't have a replacement bell yet, but we got to give a big clap of the hand and pat on the ass and all of that to Sugar Sean Folsom, man. That dude over there working on the big time, and I mean that is super cool to see that dude doing that.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of good things. That we remember when he first started as a photographer. Hell, he borrowed my camera when he first started doing photography there at it was actually, I think it was still Thunder Hill at the time before it transitioned to Central Texas Speedway, but he's got himself a nice little gig there with his little media company that he works with that gets him in there. Some great shots he got, not only just the two of us, but really good shots all weekend. He sends us to us simultaneously throughout the weekend, says, hey, check this out. Yeah. I know you guys like it. So always sending us good stuff and good pictures from Sugar Sean Folsom there.
Yeah, great shots. And he actually sent me one where you and I were walking through the bleachers, I think on Saturday at the Xfinity race. So I'm like, man, this dude's got an eagle eye right there. He sees everything that's going on. So, I mean, and that's really living the dream. I mean, this dude is getting to do something that's really cool. And I think that's kind of, I mean, that's what it's all about right there. I mean, this dude followed his passion, and man, he is living it up well.
And it's indeed he should. I mean, obviously he's got a full-time gig that takes care of all his bills, and this one's everybody's got to have a hobby. He had that race car for a while. I think he still got it, but he can't run it anywhere.
Yeah.
So he's using his other hobby and his other passion to taking photos. So he, he's got some good stuff. He took some good photos there, Kyle Larson in victory lane there on Sunday, and so was able to get the fireworks and the flames and all that other stuff that comes with winning at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I think leading into this, you got the Fall Classic coming up. To shift really quick, you got the Fall Classic coming up this weekend. Did you see that Heart of Texas? Making the 2022 factory stock rules are out, and I think that now we're starting to see. The factory stock is really taking that asphalt street stock problem, if you want to call it that, because now the rules are getting a little complicated and people aren't happy. Did you see that? Heart of Texas making some changes there. I have that rule book on my phone. We won't go in and dig all this stuff out, but it's I think the stock part is becoming really a question now.
Yeah, well, I saw that there was a lot of comments on it in terms of when Heart of Texas posted it, but I hadn't actually gone through and read the rules. Hell, probably wouldn't know what the difference is between the current set of rules in 2021 and the set of rules there in 2022. I think the difference is who's going to follow those rules. Is another track going to adopt those? Is it going to be Cotton Bowl that adopts those? Will you see Edna try to adopt those? That's a long way away from Edna down to up to Waco. So I can see Cotton Bowl maybe working with their rules a little bit to try to align with Heart of Texas, but I don't really see the Southern tracks really having a reason to do that in terms of changing their rules just to get a couple of guys from Waco on a Friday night. I think you see more transition to Cotton Bowl than you do for anywhere else from Heart of Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's lots of stuff in there, and there's stuff underlined, and I go back to stuff where, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but it's stuff on camshafts. There's engine options now, and this sounds eerily familiar, doesn't it? This is like the asphalt stuff that we talked about, for a long time. Talking about the, rods are in there, talking about stock appearing stuff, and it really does bring back memories, I think, for so many people when it comes to what we did on the pavement, to where this is where we lost the street stock class. And not saying that's what's going to happen on the factory stock side, but it really looks like they're going down that path to where lots of gray areas, and it's going to leave room for lots of question, depending what may happen.
Yeah, I think it always does. Anytime there's a new set of rules, it always comes through, and somebody says, "Oh, well, maybe we should have done this way. Maybe we should have done it that way." Everybody always second guesses the rules. Nobody ever says the rules are perfect. But generally, the people that say the rules aren't perfect are the ones that want something to try to get an advantage over somebody else.
Yeah, that's one of those things, and that's just the way it happens, and it will continue to evolve. But that's part of the growing pains of that class. Did you get to see any of the Winchester 400? I've caught bits and pieces of the highlights and everything, and boy, I tell you what, that at times looked like a shit show. But Sammy Smith wins that. He and Jack Smith get tied up there just a little bit, but looked like a typical big old super late model show.
Looked like the typical super late model, somewhat shit show there for a little bit of it, with the questionable wrecks and questionable calls, and then you had a couple of cars flipping and spinning down the high banks. There at Winchester, flipping over there. I think it was Carson Hosefar that took the wild ride there. It was a little bit more carnage than what I anticipated with the Winchester, but definitely it kind of came through and showed its teeth, if you will. The track definitely ate up a lot of cars this weekend.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that came up that I kept hearing was about only 22 super late models, and we saw. I don't think we talked about it last week. So the Cars Tour now going to the pro late model instead of the super, to try to open that window right there. But it was a lack of cars was one of the things that was talked about. And Stephen Nasse is one that the question came up where he was asked about this. And I think Nasse's comments kind of make sense at all different levels.
I think so. You have a chance to wreck at any racetrack you go to. I think this is probably my fourth Winchester here without any real big problem. If you can keep your car under you and be smart and not race people too hard at the wrong time, you're pretty well off. Hoosiers putting us in.
But isn't that the case anywhere? Isn't that the case anywhere? We see so many of these races that get out of control and guys start driving over their head and doing stupid stuff. I think, and this is coming from Nasse, who's been one of the more aggressive guys, but I think it doesn't matter, dirt, asphalt or dirt. He's really just kind of laying it out right there. Don't do stupid shit.
I mean, I think that's the hardest part, right? Was it the nut
Right.
behind the wheel?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
The
the
loose
hardest
nut,
part.
yeah.
I mean, drivers just end up being, when they put the helmet on, the helmet's too tight. And sometimes they don't think about everything completely as they should. And you not both been there, been pissed off racing a car and trying to get somebody back when they did you wrong, or maybe you're the one that did something wrong accidentally and the other guy's trying to get back at you. You know, been all kind of stuff rocking and rolling at a racetrack, but still at the same time, it doesn't matter the surface. There's always going to be contact. If you expect to go to a 400 lap race at Winchester and not have any kind of contact at all, then that's shame on you for thinking that place isn't going to get rough.
That's right. That's right. Because that is a man, that's a place that will come up and get you. He went on to talk more, and I think it's just a great interview from Nassie.
Disadvantage with the tires being a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get, but at the same time, you can just do your best to keep your fenders clean. The track ain't that bad. This equipment's made to do stuff like this. So I don't know why people don't come here, and people need to wake up, because short track racing is going to die before we know it. Then you're going to have everybody talking about how much they miss it.
Sounds like Texas, doesn't it? I mean, he just really put the nail in the coffin right there, and just the whole premise of that conversation where he's talking about is people need to support these tracks, and that's going back to the factory stock thing. That's where I see that and how complicated that's getting to be. I think 2022 is going to be so pivotal, and that's where I go back to the iStock on the dirt side. It's like, okay, that's the one that's set in stone. That's the one where everything is right there, and you can do whatever the hell, you can only do this. And the factory has grown to what it is, and now they've got growing pains. And I just hope that the class doesn't suffer with people trying to push that envelope a little bit.
Well, I think the class is already suffering for people trying to push that envelope a little bit. I think that's why they made all the rule changes.
That's right.
That's why the rule changes are in effect right now, and you got stuff underlined to tell people not to do certain things, and that's part of it. I really think that the difference is that you got to find a way to have a cheaper tire for the iStocks. Is like we talked about with Tim Homeyer, said he'd love to run an iStock, except you can't afford the tires.
That's right. That's right. More from Nassie.
And you got a few diehards out here like me, trying to support it, but just having the next young rich kid coming through and just spending a year or two and then leaving, it definitely isn't helping at all. But hopefully the MAV TV deal, maybe that puts some more light on it. I don't know, it's like super late model racing's in a tough spot, and I would love to see it change. I've been saying I'm a lifer, but you can't keep going if the show isn't going anymore.
And there it is right there. I mean, that's the whole thing. And I mean, that's anywhere. I mean, that's anywhere. I mean, it's not going to continue to go. I mean, there has to be that support. And I do like what the Cars Tour is doing, where they're going to the pro late model, because the pro late model's kind of suffered a little bit. I mean, late model stock is and way to go, Bobby McCartney. I mean, unfortunately for Caden Honeycutt, Caden not able to win that title. But I think that again, the late model stock thing is a good thing, and they've done a good job to keep that in control. And I think that's where the Cars Tour has done so great. I mean, but them going to the pro, I think maybe that's going to revive the pro, at least in that North Carolina area. I mean, because I had folks asking me, how about a Cars Tour race in Mobile? I'm like, well, they don't go to Mobile, and they sure as hell ain't coming to Texas. So I think that's a niche right there that I think is going to work well for them. Get the Super away. I mean, let the Super go do the Blizzard Series or Super Southern Super Series. Maybe that will help all of that come back the way it should be.
I think so. I mean, the problem is that you got to look at your target market over there. I mean, in the Mid-Atlantic up there in the Carolinas, there's really not a lot of super late models. You got some that run at Hickory and here and there, but they're few and far between. You and I were talking about it there at Texas Motor Speedway on Fort Worth weekend, talking about how few super late models showed up for the Cars Tour finale. I think it was 12, I think, showed up there, maybe 11 or 12, whatever the case may be. So know your audience and know what cars, it's the old adage. We can even talk to Stevie about it. What comes first, the cars or the class? You got to figure out which way works better for you to benefit you the most. And it looks like having 12 super late models, the Tours is probably thinking they'll get at least 20 super or 20 pro late models a race, or else they wouldn't have tried to change the business model.
Yeah. And the way that ended, I mean, you had the contact with Sammy Smith and Jack Smith. Depending how you look at it, and I've got quotes from both of them. Sammy, whatever happened right there, but I mean, the quotes from Jack Smith where he's full of S. I mean, I know we can say it on here, but I don't have a bell to ring, so I'm just going to say what it says here. He's full of S. He effing lifted me up down the back straightaway and carried me off in there. That's Bull S, and that's Chicken S, the Chicken S way. Just man up and take it. But I mean, is Sammy Smith really going to say that's what he did? I mean, no. I mean, we've all been behind the wheel. I mean, come on, for crying out loud. I mean, you know better than that. I mean, nothing's ever intentional.
Well, nothing's ever overly overtly you've actually in your time you've taken somebody out and it was incidental contact when it was meant to be on purpose. Everything is incidental contact. There's been times that I've tried to do it myself too. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it didn't. But at the same time, most of the time, a high percentage of the time, no one owns up to taking somebody else out. Yeah. It happens on a rare occasion, but more oftentimes than not, it doesn't.
And typical racing deal. I mean, Sammy Smith, I don't feel like I hit him at all. I was trying to pass him clean so I wouldn't have to hit him in 3 because I feel like that doesn't really turn out good when you do that. I tried to get under him. I was starting to come down. I wasn't going to lift, and that's what happened. End of story.
Imagine that.
Racing deal, my friends.
2 completely different sides of the story. That means you got to take a little bit of one and a little bit of the other to find the happy medium of what really happened.
That's right. That's right. Marianne Nauman checks in and she put one word, adrenaline. And that's what happens. I mean, when you get behind the wheel, that's the stuff that's going to happen. You know, it's just at a much higher, scope right there with the Winchester 400. And, of course, you know, the thing that Nassie's talking about right there were only 22 cars. And that is the struggle right there. I mean, on the pavement side, I mean, we can say just super late model, but I mean, you look at the shows and the count just isn't there. And you know, when we see at Marianne's track, you know, 53 factory stocks, you know, there for Oktoberfest. I mean, that's definitely that shift right there to what's actually going on. You know, how do these rules? I mean, I don't know. I think it's a pivotal time for the factory stock, and I know we're all over the map right here talking, you know, back and forth, but that's what we do. We tie in both asphalt and dirt. But I think that's the thing right now. What you have to do with the shift in the rules, that's what you have to figure out. You know, how are we going to keep these high car counts? I mean, are folks going to start doing other things? I don't know, and that's really the good question.
It really is, depending on whether or not they're going to do other things. We've been really lucky. The rebound from the COVID snap has actually been really good and really beneficial for racetracks. For the most part, with the promoters that we've talked to, is that there's been higher car counts and higher fan counts in 2021, minus a couple of Mother Nature issues. But, you know, hopefully these people don't decide to just do something else on Saturday. It gets rough there depending on where you're located in some of these bigger metropolitan areas, some of these racetracks. They've got a lot of competition now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they do. So that'll be something to follow as we get to the off season. And again, the Fall Classic coming up. It starts Thursday with the practice night happening at Heart of Texas. You got Friday and Saturday night action. You got the Dwarf Car Nationals. It's going to be a whole lot happening at Heart of Texas Speedway, and that's one of those destination places. Get yourself over there and go check that out. It'll be fun. You got the late models on Friday night, then the junior limiteds are back on Saturday. So anyway, speaking of late models, one of our guys, many of our guys, but one of our show friends went down, put that badass paint scheme on that what became the number 99 car. Friend of the show checking back in once again after winning at Texas Motor Speedway Dirt Track. It's Stevie Whitaker on the hotline. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Man, we are doing well. Dude, who the hell put that wrap on that car? That looked like Burton's car, but with a long nose.
Of course, that was Garrett Gregory. He's always provided, you know, our stuff for some time now, and obviously does excellent work, which keeps us coming back, and all my customers coming back. And yeah, I think it was a pretty simple car, but I think he nailed it pretty good.
Absolutely.
So what goes into preparation on the big shows? I mean, you tend to run a lot of the bigger shows now when you come to that stuff. What makes the determining factor to try to run up at a super big show like that up at TMS?
Well, you know, back when I was racing a bunch, you'd race, 75 times a year. And then 4 kids later and, responsibilities, it makes you kind of cut back. And, I was supposed to cut back, and then I decided to take over a racetrack, which still kept me at the races every weekend. But we kind of just decided to, get a crate late model and kind of just, my goal is to run 8 or 10 times a year. And just when you're like that, you can show up and you're not so stressed, and you can just have fun. But we've actually raced quite a bit this year, especially with all the XR events that they've been putting on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stevie, how cool is it to actually race there on a NASCAR weekend? I mean, I know a lot of people, they're pissed off, they hate NASCAR, whatever. But you've got the Cup guys next door. You got the Xfinity haulers there. I mean, everything is right there. But to go out to race on that weekend and nonetheless win a race, how big is that for you?
Well, I always enjoy racing at TMS. I think I've been there. My first time I went in 2009, I think. I really do enjoy it. It's a nice facility. I've never been at TMS as much as I have this year, with XR put on the Monday series and the Texas Dirt Nationals. The Red River Tour was there. And then this weekend, with the late models, with the crates and the sprint cars, the Bandit series. Mm-hmm. So we were there quite a bit, but this time with the NASCAR there was quite a bit of fans in the stands, and it seemed like they were enjoying it. And I think on the NASCAR side, it was a little different this time because they don't qualify or practice anymore. So, they just show up and run the main event, and then that's it. Before it was you could spend Thursday, Friday, and truck series, and now it's just features only, so to speak. So, but I, people hating NASCAR, I probably don't follow as much NASCAR as I used to. I'm still up to date with it. I just agree with the terms that have changed. It's no longer the butt and the seat. It's the ad on TV is where, NASCAR's making their money. So stuff just kind of changes. We were there. We were in the accelerated suite. And it did look, not as full as it was back in 1999. But I think they've changed avenues on how they make money. So, but I mean, I still enjoyed it. I'd rather be on the comfort of my couch or my shop watching it. Sure. But I still enjoyed being there. I took my boys with me, and they loved it as well. First time they ever got to see something like that.
That's awesome.
So, Stevie, what can you learn from going to these big XR shows and the races at TMS? Is there anything that you can kind of take and put in the notebook and come back and try to implement there at South Texas Speedway?
Well, any time you're able to make a lap in a race car is a plus. Any time you're able to jot down something in a notebook is a plus. So, we're kind of at home this weekend, and I've got the late model getting ready. I may go to Texana, but I know that the first that duel in the desert, we're going to head to that, and then I have the DTK at I-37. So I'm trying to pick my battles at home, not trying to be gone every single weekend because of that duel in the desert. We're going to be in Vegas for, 6 days or so. So, which my wife's going to fly out there for that one. But I am enjoy racing right now. I'm having a good time being back in the seat as much, as I have been with whether, I think we ran, outlaw mods, IMCA mods, crate lates, open late models. So we've kind of ran a mixture of cars this year.
Yeah. So back to the XR races. I mean, hadn't that really been, I throw the word out, blessing. I mean, because it's like we have to save this. I was playing some sound earlier about Stephen Nasse talking about people need to go to the racetrack and just show up. But hadn't that really been a big deal to put you guys on a really, really big stage? I mean, TMS, that's huge.
Correct. And especially, them getting to do it on NASCAR weekend. That's two birds with one stone. You're going to a race and a vacation. But I don't know. I know, like, my own track here, we had a bunch of rainouts. And then I had one that I canceled because I just couldn't get the place ready. I didn't have enough manpower. But I think it just gave people an opportunity to enjoy something else on a Saturday. And then when we got back going, it kind of wasn't there. The car counts or fan counts, they weren't terrible, but they just weren't good. And the problem with that is, I think, is the same thing I kind of see that's happening with XR. They're paying good money. They're putting on big prestigious races. They're not interested in the local races. They're putting on good stuff. And I can say from my own point of view, when I took over South Texas Speedway, my goal was to pay everything out that I brought in, because I'm a racer and I know that it takes money to get the cars. Well, when you do that and you raise the purse $3,000 or $4,000 across the board over the year, and then you have a bad night, now it's in the red. We lost money now, so it's hard to give it because you can never take it back. But I think these XR events, they understand that it might take 2 or 3 years to get stuff going, which is very respectable for them to understand that. So they're committed, and I try to support most of their events. Especially like the Monday series at TMS and stuff like that. I mean, it's just hard to put on that kind of stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of DFW area racers that don't attend those shows, and might be work related or, racing budget or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured more of them will be there. A lot of them are out of town, guys.
Yeah, that's right.
It is crazy when you notice the entry list and you got to see how far away a lot of the guys are going for the TMS shows with the XR stuff. So as far as the XR stuff goes, is that something, do they holler at you and then say, hey, we want to lease your facility? Or is that something you're interested in them say, hey, come lease the facility? How does that conversation get started?
I'm sure it works both ways. I foresee like the stuff like when they came to South Texas Speedway, that stuff might go away because they're, like I said, they're interested in big events that hold big crowds and, stuff like that where, we might get lucky just because we might be a winter destination. But other than that, I just see them going after big venues or places that have big, crowds or can draw some cars, like centralized areas.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good group of people. They run a great show. And they actually, they pay what they say they're going to pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a big part of it. I mean, to throw a big purse out there and pay it, I mean, that's really big. So how cool has it been for you this year, just to kind of backpedal a little bit? Yeah, you got the kiddo in the car. I mean, how cool is that for you? I mean, you're doing your thing. I mean, you're driving, whatever, you're running a track. But next generation coming in there, that's got to be pretty badass.
I was I knew that he could. I knew that he knew the fundamentals of it. I think he was 9 when I let him hot lap his car for the first time.
Nice.
And me having my own track, I probably should have ran a lot of laps, but I just don't. And when he started racing this year, he's 10, and I know my son. Like, I got a 5'2", 150-pound 10-year-old. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
But he's clumsy, and he gets that from his mama, of course.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
I was, he started out, and just kind of rubbing people and, not knowing correct lines. And when we actually got the last 3 or 4 races of the year where we could run every Saturday, I think it really helped him. And, I mean, I'm really hard on him in the last race. I was very impressed. I thought he did well and ended up pulling off the win. And Jerry Walters, who's won every race in that class this year, he ended up finishing second. So it was definitely a good night, and I was definitely a proud dad that night.
Cool.
So, Steve, let's talk about getting classes going. We talked before you got on the show about Heart of Texas changing up their rules for the factory stocks, and it became the question about how many tracks are going to follow suit. And it's like, it's a long way from Waco to Corpus Christi. Is that something that you look at in terms of rules? Are you more concerned with the rule package that maybe Edna's running or maybe Johnny and them at I-37 are running? How far out do you look at the rules, or do you just keep them in-house and only worry about the rules there at I-37?
I think it's a little easier for South Texas Speedway on that stuff because we're only looking north, and we kind of try to stay with Texana or I-37, and as long as we're with them, we're close to them, we're fine. I think it's tracks like Texana and I-37 that have the tougher decision because they got to worry about above them and below them.
Yeah.
Which way do we want to go? Because they got to figure out where they draw the cars from and stuff like that. I just think it's a little harder for them to make that decision because if they ever changed, I don't feel like I would have a choice to change. I need to follow suit, or because if I don't, my guys are going to be stuck at my racetrack and can't go race anywhere else, and then their guys are going to can't ever come down here. So it just it's always best to kind of stay close to your local tracks, but I do think it's a little tougher decision for the tracks a little north of me.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that is a great point. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, yeah, you're down at the bottom right there. So let me ask you about. Let's talk about the factory stock class. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where we've watched it, become a badass class. I mean, there's so many cars everywhere, and guys are building these, getting out there, getting them, special built, whatever. I mean, what's your thought on this one to kind of reel everything in and keep it, I dare to say, affordable, because nothing's affordable. Hell, not even a tuner. But what's the key right now? Because I think that class is in a real pivotal point right now.
Well, there's always one thing that I always say, and it's you cannot stop evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot stop people from spending money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can go. I mean, you can build a $30,000 factory stock right now.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, the lowest class on my track, the pure stocks, I can go build you a $20,000 pure stock. I mean, if you bought every single part on that car brand new, which you can,
Mm-hmm.
you know, minus like transmit, stuff that you just can't get new.
Right.
It adds up quick, and so being affordable. I think that I'll take this our EMOD class. I think it's at a very affordable class here, but somebody has yet to go buy a brand new car and put it in that class and dominate.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, it changes the game.
That's right.
It makes the back guys that can't afford brand new cars quit, or it makes them spend more money, and that's where it gets to where quote unquote unaffordable. Until somebody pushes the limits in a class with all brand new stuff, it's always going to stay affordable.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't stop evolution. I mean, you can. I mean, it's just part of life that things keep going and stuff gets more expensive every single year. You know, when I got into sport mods, I bought a brand new motor for $5,500, and now they're 10 or 12 grand. You know, so it's the same exact parts. We have the same rules.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's changed. We run the same block crank heads with a little better pistons, and so what? Nothing really changed, but they're twice the price.
Yeah. Great point.
Let's talk about that EMOD class real quick. It seems to be growing leaps and bounds. I know that the car count's picking up really good there up in Edna, and it seems like a lot of that's transferring down to South Texas Speedway. Is it more important for that class to have an entry level class, or is it more important for that class to try to bring new blood into the racetrack, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination. It kind of started with when Owen had South Texas Speedway, and it gave a good place for sport mods to like older sport mods, maybe one's a little bent, it gave them a place to go. But I still think that is a very good class. I think the people in Texana have really built a bunch of cars and kind of upped the car count there. South Texas has always had a pretty good car count. I think a couple of races this year we had over 20.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys, I hate to call anything a beginner class. You just pick the class that you can afford. That's kind of where you go. Like, my pure stock class is basically like an old factory stock, and people get in it and, well, if I win 3 races, I got to move up. I'm like, no, this is not a beginner class. If this is the class you can afford, this is the class you stay in. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and make you move up, because I want the people at the back of the pure stock class that don't have the car, they can change a couple things and move down and run competitively. And now they're there every week and they're having a good time. Mm-hmm. So I think a little different on beginner stuff. I mean, you have people that run factory stocks their whole lives. You have people that run sport mods their whole life,
Sure.
So
yeah,
it's just whatever you can afford and what you can run. But yes, that EMOD class has really grown, and I don't see it slowing down any.
I agree.
So are those cars, they old sport mods or they old big mods? I never can tell the difference between the two of them. With
the E-mods down here are sport mod chassis that, 6,000 RPM chip and, all stock motor and 8-inch slicks and crappy shocks and rear percent rules and, stuff like that. It's basically, I kind of went the route. I have 4 classes here. I have a pure stock and a factory stock, and you can move down or up with the same exact car. And then you have, changing bolt on stuff, not changing the actual cutting and welding frame body. All the suspension rules are the same, just upgrading. And the E-mods and the sport mods are the same thing. If you got an E-mod, you want to go to a sport mod, you just buy some shocks, buy some tires, upgrade your motor, and you're ready to go. Mm-hmm. And I liked it like that. So you could, say somebody did go buy a brand new factory stock and they are a rookie. They can run pure stock, and when they decide to move up, they can without buying a new car. Just upgrade what you have.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of years of like that, I think especially when they have 4 classes at a track, I think the fans appreciate, starting at 7:30 and being over by 10 o'clock. I think I think the fans really appreciate get out of there at a decent time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stevie, let's put that promoter hat back on. I mean, we've talked to so many folks on here when it comes to, because you have, I mean, it's been so tough for you. You talked about the struggles this year. I mean, you've had to call races, and I mean, that is so hard. How have you, through all of this, I mean, because You got to watch the weather. I mean, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? I mean, put us in your shoes when you're sitting there watching this. I mean, it's like, I would dread to be a promoter when you're trying to figure out if you can actually race or not, when you don't actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. I think so. I make it a little easier on myself because the last thing I want to do is have a bad time. Mm-hmm. The last thing I want my drivers or my fans to do is have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
So if it rains enough to where I think the ground is even going to be muddy, I won't do it. I won't go through the extra work of scraping pits or pumping little puddles out, because any fan that gets stuck in that parking lot, the odds of them coming back are slim. And no driver wants to go home and wash their trailers and their trucks and the inside out. It makes for a bad time. And so that makes my decision making a little easier. Is if I can't do it 100% right and everybody had a badass time, I don't want to do it at all.
Yeah. That's, man, we need to mark that tape right there. Mark that tape. That's good shit.
Right, it kind of makes it simple when you put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
So talk about the challenges here.
But I have good people associated with South Texas Speedway. You know, there are tracks that the only way for them to make money is for it to be open. So if they don't race, they don't make money. So I understand them guys.
Sure.
You know, I think like I-37 they have rent to pay, regardless if they race or not. You know, so they're going to do whatever they can to get the races in, because that's, you know, they still have the same bills every month whether they race or not.
And that's something we always talk about. I mean, when you have that rent to pay, I mean, that's the biggest thing right there. I mean, you can't, Bobby and I were going to TMS this weekend, and we drove by Heart of Texas, and they've got this big ass, badass, brand new, you know, laser sign up, whatever it is, video board. And it's like, Jerry Friedrich owns that track. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do, doesn't have to worry about rent. Just so much more flexibility in that case.
I like tracks like that. You know, you got, you know, Troy owns our track outright, but he's, you know, half-ass retired, and, you know, he wants a racetrack here, but he doesn't have the business or the funds to just keep dumping money into it.
Sure.
Where, you know, and I understand that, you know, when I'm his age, I just want to kick back and drink margaritas on the beach also. But
and race late models.
I like seeing, you know, Waco, where they've had some major improvements to that place over the last, you know, 5-6 years. And every time I go there, which isn't very often, you can tell, and it's good to see, you know, tracks like that. And I haven't been, but I've heard a lot of good things about Grayson County, who they, you know, completely redid that place. And I know I went there one time a long time ago, and I hated it. But you talk to people now, and it's like, dude, it's a whole different place, you know. And I envy those people, and I do appreciate those people that get the racetracks and make them nice and keep them going, because the facility is what keeps you coming back.
That's right.
So, Steve, talk about the struggles in this whole COVID recovery type of thing. Obviously, we had COVID real bad, had the track shut down, and a lot of issues in 2020. In 2021, it seems like the tracks are rebounding, kind of getting a little bit better and a little bit better attendance and stuff like that. But now, as you look forward to maybe 2022 and the end of 2021, now that stuff's starting to get more open again, theaters and amusement parks and all the challenges of the other entertainment places where you're at.
Strip clubs.
Strip clubs open back up now too. Yeah. Well, how does that change the mindset?
No clothes, but a mask.
That's right. Is that the way that works?
Yeah, I heard. I haven't been. You know, heard.
So how does the mindset change on that?
So the COVID deal, my honest opinion, 2020, when everything kind of shut down, when it started, like the glimpse of, you know, opening back up, we had some races, and I got with my local, you know, government officials and kind of got ignored on everything. So I was like, that means yes. So we put on some races and put up our signs, you know, and recommendation to wear a mask and, you know, sanitizing stations, you know, places. And we had some of the biggest crowds we have ever had. And it's because there was nothing to do. Like, they were packing the stands because they couldn't go anywhere else. There was no concerts. There was no nightlife. There was no bars open. These people came to the racetrack. And, you know, it was crazy to see that. And that was at the end. You know, that was when when especially all the bars were closed.
Yeah.
You know, so like our bar was closed and we had BYOB. But when I kept reaching out to our local government officials, like they kept, well, I don't know. Or I'm like, can we open? And, you know, when they tell us like, okay, you can open, but 50% capacity, well, our stands hold 4,000 people.
Yeah.
So when we have our normal 600 or 800 every night, it looks like a little bit, but there's still 600 or 800 there, you know? So I'm like, if 50%, not a problem. If I have 2,000 people here, great.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this year, I just think the rain killed us.
Yeah.
You know, it rained during the important races to where we started racing when, you know, Texas football starts and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough for you guys. I mean, you're on the coast, so that makes it even harder. So let's get back to the racing side. So after going there this weekend at TMS, so what's left for you this year? Are you jumping back in? What's still on the calendar for Stevie Whitaker?
Well, I got Texana this weekend as a maybe.
Yeah.
Then I'm racing my late model and the modified at the DTK, which is an I-37. November 8th through the 13th, I go to the duel in the desert.
Nice.
And then I have the Jerry Whitaker Memorial here at South Texas Speedway that I put on every year. That's going to be the first weekend in December.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. I'm thinking about just, you know, selling my modified and just concentrating on crate late models and next year. And because if I have a car sitting there that's racing like I-37 or Edna or home, like I'm going to go race, and I don't need to be racing 25 times a year. I have so much other stuff to do that. So if I have a car that I just go out of town 10 times a year and have a good time, that's kind of what I'm hoping at. Yeah. I'm hoping for that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good plan. That's a really good plan.
So talk about that duel in a desert race. You're not the only person we've heard mention that race down there in Vegas. That seems like that's a pretty big show that a lot of people are saving up their money for and saving up their cars and equipment to try to run that big race there in Vegas.
Man, it's Vegas. Like I've only been to Vegas. I went one time in 2015 for like 2 days. It was like a free trip. My wife was like selling some multi-level stuff, and they went blah blah blah, all that stuff. And then I went to the duel last year to kind of meet the XR group.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't race. I was just there. We helped them, you know, officiate and work the track a little bit, and then we spent a couple nights out on the town, and I had a great time. So. Take my modified this year to race, and you know, everybody, Johnny's like, you going? And I was like, I'm going whether I'm racing or not. So if everything goes good, like we're going to take the mod, we're going to have a good time and kind of enjoy the week.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, what a treat. I mean, that's pretty badass. Lastly, let me ask you, I mean, because you can see it from two different ways, the promoter hat and the helmet, whether it be XR, Race on Texas, Speed 51, you know, Flow Racing, whatever it is. How cool is it for you that we have access to all of this racing now? We can just jump online and boom, there it is. I mean, we've grown up in this sport. Used to be you had to go to the racetrack, but hell, now you just dial it up. I mean, isn't that a game changer?
I love it. I mean, like you just figure the first two you mentioned, they're companies that are on two different sides of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. You know, you have Race on Texas, who films as much Texas racetracks as they possibly can. So it allows all of us to race at or to watch local tracks. So we may not be at.
Right.
You have companies like XR who could give two shits about filming a local race. They're going to go promote to their own big show.
That's right, man.
And pay the money. So it's great. I mean, we have racing all over the place. You know, you have a company that's willing to show you everything, and you have a company that's willing to pay, you know, to put races on. So it's actually pretty good.
So one last question to tie in on that. Does that affect the bottom line, the online stuff for you guys or at any racetrack? I mean, does people sitting in the recliner watching the stuff online, does that affect the bottom line of the racetrack?
If I go to a race and it's a big race and I'm working on my car and you figure there's 100 cars there, so you're not like parked close, I turn it on my phone or my iPad to have it on the toolbox. So if I'm at the race watching it online, I'm sure most people that want to be there at the racetrack are going to be there.
Yep.
I think the main ones are the people that cannot be there. So, and once everybody got smart, I think, and went to the monthly charge, you're paying whether you use it or not, you know? So, I think it's worth it if I'm not able to go to, like, if I don't go to Texas this weekend, I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I don't think it steals anything, especially with Race on Texas giving back to the racetracks.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it robs the track of anything.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. So, lastly, man, promote your race. I mean, you got one more coming up. I mean, at South Texas. Again, promoter hat on now. Talk about that big one coming up. I mean, I think after everything that's gone on this year, I mean, to hit it out of the park, man.
Man, last year I think was one of the best years. It used to be called the South Texas Shootout when Owen and Ken Hobbs had the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
I changed to the Jerry Whitaker Memorial. We had 75 sport mods, which I think is the most that event's ever had.
That's awesome.
So I think people genuinely like coming down here and going to the extracurricular activities after practice night downtown.
That's right.
You know, we're going to Barnes and Noble and, you know, just reading everything on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I think people genuinely have a great time. I think I half-ass know how to treat drivers because I am one.
That's right.
And, you know, we're going to have our normal $5,000 a win, and I'm unsure what I'm going to pay for the factory stocks, but we're going to have some added money for them too. It's the first weekend in December, and like I said, we're just looking at having a good time with the race going on.
So what's your factory stock rules for that race?
Yeah.
They'll be asking.
Oh, man, I don't
They'll
even want to start on that. If it's got 4 wheels, you're ready to go.
There it is.
It's got to have fenders on it.
There it is. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Congratulations on that win, dude. I love that car, man. I think it's pretty ironic that you win that race. And, you know, Burton had that paint scheme back in 1997. So how cool was that? 25 years at TMS.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there was other ones there, you know, like Chase Allen won with the Dale Earnhardt. I think that was, you know, the popularity of it. I think the Terry Labonte route that Philip Houston had, the Kellogg's car, I think that car looked absolutely amazing. Like, that was probably the best looking car there.
Yeah.
As far as Texas history, you know, that was Johnny Torres' idea. I asked all my buddies what they thought, and he was like Jeff Burton, man, and I like the underrated drivers, the Jeff Burtons, the Mark Martins, the Ryan Newmans. Like, I like those kind of drivers. So I was like,
yeah,
absolutely, you know. And hell, we even got a shout out on the NASCAR on TV, you know. So it was
awesome, dude.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
It's on Sirius XM too. I heard about you winning when we were when I was going up to Round Rock on Saturday. They just talked about the big win there on Friday.
One of the truck drivers the truck driver for Eric Amarola was kind of jogging around. We were working on the car Saturday. We were going to go watch the Xfinity race. So we're working on the car, and I see this guy jogging through the pits, and he stops and he talks. He's Australian, you know, and he's just kind of talking about the car. And he's like, I remember this car. And then when I'm like, are you here watching? He's like, oh, I'm the truck driver and shot guy for the 10 car. And getting to talk to him about how things actually work, you know, that we don't know, we don't see was amazing. And next thing you know, he's there for 3 hours, you know, and ruined his whole jog, you know. But it's good to talk to people like that. Me and you, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes in NASCAR, you know, and when they're going to get back to practicing and how they're going to do this. Stuff like that kind of, you know, intrigues me.
Yeah. We talked to a good friend of ours, and he was talking to he works on the scoring team for NASCAR, and he was talking about all this different stuff about loops on the track, and you know, same thing. 2 hours later, we're like, man, I mean, time flew by with that great conversation. But
I think we can all agree on one thing, though, that the 550 horsepower package hurts. It kind of sucks a little bit, and we all wish that they would go to a lot of horsepower, a hard tire, and like a square box.
Yes, sir.
I want to see, you know, Greg Biffle style sideways up against the wall and stuff.
That's right.
Right now, they're just holding the steering wheel, I feel.
Yeah. Cadillac style, like Sammy Kershaw used to say.
I mean, it's still difficult. I'm pretty sure if I was in there, I'd still be scared.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like Ricky Bobby around the apron, you know. But, you know, it's just, I want to see the car. I want to see the drivers drive.
Me too.
That's what I want.
Me too. They need to drive their ass off. I want it to be the guy in the seat. But anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But way to go, man. Let's connect again soon as we get closer to your finale there, and let us know how we can help you with that, dude. Because man, we're in your court. We just love Corpus Christi. We love you guys, and keep kicking ass, dude.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. Take care.
Thank you.
You bet. There he is, Stevie Whitaker. Man, driver, promoter, dad. He does it all, man. It's
business owner. He's a man of many hats.
Business owner. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, so much that he does right there, but it's got to be a cool thing to go win at TMS. And, we talked to Caitlin, a couple of weeks ago where she just got to go race there and she was excited. But, man, what a livery. I just love seeing those cars and it's a great weekend. And, I mean, good for those guys and ladies to get to go race there because that is a massive stage. I don't care. Take like we were talking to him. I don't care if you like NASCAR or not. But to be racing right next door to that place, that's a big-ass deal.
It's the same thing when the Legend cars used to race there during Cup weekend. Yeah. Granted, they were kind of mixed in between qualifying. When there wasn't something on the big track, they had the races going on with the Legends cars. It was free to get in. Obviously, it wasn't free to get into the TMS dirt track stuff.
Right.
But it was a big deal for the Legend cars to be running that race weekend. It's got to be a big deal for the dirt cars and dirt teams to be running there. And that TMS dirt track is a hell of a facility. If you've never been, it is top notch. It's probably one of the nicest short tracks in the country in terms of one. I mean, granted, it holds 30,000 people, maybe.
Yeah,
20,000 people. It's a huge ass place, but it's beautiful.
I got to tell you, I thought one of the things that was so cool was on Saturday when we got there, Bobby. We made our way down. And we're cruising up in there. We went, got the credentials, did everything we had to do, and then we go to the Buc-ee's, to kind of refuel, do whatever and get set for the Xfinity race. And we're sitting there. There's all these NASCAR fans there. The Kyle Busch car sitting over there in the corner, and here comes a sport mod on an open trailer. On an open trailer, and there were all these people looking at this car like, what in the hell is that? It's like I thought that was really cool. I mean, to have, I think that's really a way where whether it be a Charlotte or TMS, where to try to tie the two together. And, I think that's something that needs to happen. And I think TMS is doing a really good job of doing that to where you do. I mean, you reel in. I mean, let's bring the short track people in. Maybe we get them to go to the big track and vice versa. I mean, I think it's a really great thing. And like you said, and I mean, Ryan Stoy's checking in. He won the first dwarf car race at that place, at the dirt track. I think it's really cool that we are seeing that tie-in right there.
Well, I think you have to. I mean, I think it's beneficial for both sides. You got the people that go to a NASCAR race that's never set foot on a short track race. You've got the people that run the short track that really aren't interested in NASCAR, but yet they're there that weekend. Even Stevie talked about it, being able to take his sons to the race and how they had a great time there. So I think a lot of it ties in together. We use the phrase, the rising tide raises all boats, which is true. But if it moves the needle, that's the part of it that makes the difference, is that if you got one track that's doing well, they can feed off each other, because you get somebody that's never been to a racetrack or hadn't been in a long time. They see those throwback schemes of the Jeff Burtons and the Terry Labonis and the Dale Earnhardts, the Wrangler car and all that. They're like, damn, I remember these cars back. It's been a hot minute since I've been to a short track race.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great tie-in right there for them to do that. And, I mean, that really does bring it full circle, and that's what needs to happen. And I saw a lot of folks that were saying, no, I can't go to TMS, it costs too much. But it's really not that much anymore. I don't remember ticket prices being this cheap. I mean, I think a lot of times at TMS, if you walk up to the damn place and tell them I only got $5, they probably let you in. I mean, that's how flexible that they're being right now to try to get people in the door. But
yeah, they're trying to get a lot of people in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. But a great weekend to drive into TMS, see those late models, see all of those dirt cars sitting there at the dirt track. I thought that was really cool, because we got to bring it back, and it seems like they're working hard to do that. But let's go back to the hotline. So I think that this is a cool night, because we're talking to down home racers right here, and that's really what short track racing is. I mean, and that's really what we concentrate on. I mean, we like to talk to real racers. And now on the hotline, one of our new friends, one of our new family members over there from the Irvington area, we got one of the Langhams on here, man, and it was so this is a big deal. We got a Langham on the air. I mean, Jonathan Langham, how we doing, brother?
How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well, my man. I'm doing well. What's shaking out your way? How's the weather there, my man?
Well, it felt great for the past 2 days. Heck, we was finally starting to get some chilly weather, and now Satan's rubbing his balls on us again, starting to get warm. So not the greatest thing for a fat boy.
I
I
love
don't
it.
care for it.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
So a lot of people in the Irvington greater Mobile area know all about your story, but now you get a chance to talk to the rest of the world and the rest of the Texans. Talk about how you ended up involved in the whole middle of this crazy mess that we call racing.
Oh boy, I don't know if I was really lucky enough to be born into it, or if we was just that cursed. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
I absolutely love it. Ain't nothing else on this world I'd rather do than sit in a race car any Friday, Saturday night, but my grandfather used to own race cars and drive race cars and had people drive for them and everything, back when my dad was a little boy and everything. And then my dad was in it his whole life. Then whenever I came along, I've been involved in it ever since day one. I started back in 2005 whenever I was 16 at Mobile, of course.
Yeah.
I was born in 88. I was born in December of 88, and come March of 89, my mom had me in the stands at Mobile right there to the right of the flag stand. Ever since day one, I've been going to that place. It's home. I love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your dad. And I mean, like I said, I mean, it's been such a pleasure this year for me to get to know you guys. And you guys are just like me. I mean, rough around the edges, but badasses, and that's really what we do. I mean, that's our racing family. It doesn't matter if it's Alabama or Texas, but talk about your dad. I mean, Howard's still out there. I mean, he's out there, doing his thing. I mean, how cool is that?
Oh, I love it. He's always been my hero and my idol whenever it came to anything racing related. That's like, I go to here past couple of years, I've been fortunate enough to go to a couple other tracks other than just Mobile or Sunny South Raceway and Five Flags right here on the coast. This year I've been able to go to Montgomery some. I've went to South Alabama Speedway and run. I've went to Chris Motorsports Park up in Georgia. And whenever I go to Montgomery or Opp, I go thriving on what my dad's accomplished and how he's ran up there in his past runs. And I've been able to get me a win at Montgomery now. Unfortunately, Dad hasn't got one up there yet, but that makes me feel good. I've accomplished something that my dad hasn't.
Hell yeah!
And that's what I thrive on. I've watched him my whole life. I want to be just as good, if not better than him. One day. So whenever I can win a race somewhere, it's like a bittersweet moment. You're like, I got one before you, bitch. Or then you're like, man, this actually sucks in a way, He ain't got one yet. But I love it. I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. We're just like any other father-son race team or whatever. We're gonna butt heads. We're gonna get in arguments and everything. But I wouldn't pick nobody else. I'd rather do it with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I think I know the answer to the next question that I'm going to ask, but how important and how much of a revival for racing has it been now that Mobile's open back up, even if it's just been for the 4 or 5 races so far this year? I mean, that's got to be a game changer for you guys down there in the Southeast.
Oh God, yes, man, we love it. That was such a blessing. We ain't out of the water yet, but God, it's looking good, and with everything that Gina and Bo and all of you guys, as a whole from Texas has been able to do and overcome this season just to try to get Mobile back on the map. I set up I downloaded Peacock television on my phone last week just so I could catch up on the new Lost Speedways, and I watched the ones of San Antonio, and I hate it, because Mobile was so far to that point. it was so close to being that next Lost Speedway.
That's right.
I look back on it, and it makes you want to cry because I'm 32 years old now. That's where I've cut my teeth. That's the place where I want to keep racing. That's where the next place I want my son to be in another 2 years. I want it to stick around forever. But right now I'm just being so thankful for what we do have and what everybody's doing for the track to keep it alive.
Yeah. Jonathan, how cool was it? I mean, the first race we had there, we couldn't let anybody in there. I mean, the stands, it is what it is. But to see all the people that showed up, I mean, just to watch in one turn, I mean, they would park down at 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, wherever it was. All those people that showed up to watch you guys without being able to get in the stands, that had to be had to be a pretty good ball breaker right there to see all that stuff happening.
That was pretty kick-ass, Well, back in Mobile's heyday, when I first started or just before then and everything, I used to go up in the stands, and if you didn't get to that joint by 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon with them full grandstands open, you was struggling to find a seat, period.
Yeah.
And it was the same way in the infield, how they was back in there in the turns, tailgating and everything 3 deep.
Yeah.
It was like that every week, and pits was full. And then this year you got that empty spot in the stands, but then you pull out there on the track and all for practice, and you see these cars lined up 2 and 3 deep and everything along the infield, and you happen to take your time to get through the pits because the pits are full again. You're like, hell yeah, baby, we coming back. We ain't done yet.
Yeah.
This old girl still got a lot of fight left in her.
It was so weird for me, the first couple of races there when we couldn't have people up there, where I would sit there and just out of habit, call the races like I do when there's people there. And I would say, make some noise, whatever. And I'd hear those people in the infield. I mean, it's all these people in the end, way the hell down there. And I could hear them up there, and you could hear them on the video. I mean, that's real race fans right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it. We've got a pretty good amount of diehard short track fans and racers still in the South down here, especially along the coast right here in Mobile. There's thousands of people around here that still just like me that want to see this place keep going in the right direction.
That's right.
And when we finally got to get them two sections, even though it wasn't much, whenever they was able to get them stands opened up,
jam-packed,
that was awesome, and luckily I was fortunate enough to get a monkey off my back.
That's right. That
night and end up winning.
That's right.
And just being able to take that damn Polish victory lap for the first time in years at Mobile again, and just with the little bit of fans in the stands right there, you come down there and you can just hear them overpowering the noise of the race car and all, and you're like, damn right, this is what it's all about.
That's right. I love it.
So, Jonathan, how cool is it to see everybody buying into Gina's vision? I mean, obviously there's a need and a want for racing in Mobile to happen again, because it's a hell of a place. It's a great racetrack, and there's some damn good racing there. But how cool is it to see the entire racing community, at least from what we see in Texas or what I see from Texas? It feels like the entire racing community, both past, present, and even what can be the future racers of Mobile, all coming together and trying to make that place rise up like a phoenix.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not even if it's just not necessarily everybody coming together on a race day or a practice night. It's whenever they set up these work days on a Saturday morning. And you've got people that's just friends of racers, not even family and all. They're spectators coming down there and helping screw down some bleacher boards, and just everybody coming together and helping them is unbelievable. 2 weeks ago, a good buddy of mine. Old Granny Panties is what I've called him my whole forever. But Grant Enfinger, you know, I've worked for Grant in the past. Hell, when he comes in town or what in races, he'll call me. Hey, I'm going to be at Five Flags this weekend. You want to come help me? Hell yeah. But he was there a couple of weeks ago, you know, on the work day, and Gina didn't even have a clue who he was at first, you know.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, that's who that was.
Yeah.
You know, he has. This is another, you know, Sunny South's one of the tracks where he cut his teeth at and all, but then he went from Legends and went to the late models, and all, and started running Mobile and ran Mobile for years and all. And now he's in one of the top divisions in the sport, and it's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
But just people like that coming together and wanting to give back to the track, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
Also,
it's funny, Langham. She messaged me that day. She's like, "Do you know who Grant Enfinger is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know who that is. Are you kidding me?" And
who
she's
the
like,
hell don't?
Yeah. She's
really?
like, "He's here nailing boards down." I'm like, "That's a pretty fucking big deal." I said that's a big deal. I said that's a huge deal. So I really want to give you guys a shout out because I mean you guys, you race out of pocket like so many of us have for such a long time, and I mean you guys, I mean you're towing around. It's a family run thing. I mean you don't have, you know, whoever it may be, you don't have all these fancy big corporate sponsors. I mean you guys do this for the love, and it's always been a challenge in Texas to get people to come down. And you guys came all the hell way down here to run this last race that we had, man. I thought that was so cool when you guys showed up, and you know we had our conversations there in the Holiday Inn, you know, thing. Like that's kind of that thing, man. I thought it was
what I remember of it.
Yeah, you and me both, man. Thank you, man. That was so cool for you guys to come down because you're pocket racers. I thought that was so cool that you guys came down. I mean, thank you for showing up for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and I wish we could have had more stuff along the lines of rules and everything, you know, to bring something else over there. But we was able to bring Dad's truck, and we was able to get I was able to get Jason Welch to come over there with us, and hell, the two of us met up and left, and just bobtailed over there together, you know, and made a weekend of it. But it was awesome, man. That track over there, that's a beautiful little facility and all, you know. I wish things could go in a better direction, I guess you would say, for Gina and them over there with that track. But it was a blast. We absolutely loved it. Would have had like to add a better outcome, you know, but it was all good. It was something different, you know. That's as far as Dad's ever went and raced, you know. So that was pretty cool to see him 55, 56 years old finally being able to go farther than 200 miles to race, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely. We said from the beginning we was going to make a trip out there at least once.
Yeah.
And then luckily we was able to go, and we was going to go for the first Gulf Coast Advanced Series race, and it got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew we was going to make a trip or two out there this year. We just didn't know exactly when. And we finally got to come out there and hang out with y'all guys. And
yeah, that was fun.
I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, what a treat.
I would say that must have been a rough ride going back with as much fun as everybody was having at the Holiday Inn. Let's talk about Welch's run down there. When I was talking to him, he was pretty fired up about hanging around that little 3/4 or that 3/8 mile track there compared to that big old half mile. He seemed to enjoy himself in Houston. I know he didn't get the results that he wanted, but he seemed to have a hell of a good time while he was there.
Oh yeah, you know, Welch, he's one of them Yankee asses. So up in Yankeeville, up there in Maine and New Hampshire, you know, all you've got is them little small bull rings. I think one of the biggest tracks they actually race on up there other than New Hampshire Motor Speedway when they got a big ass race, but
Yeah.
other than that, I think one of the biggest tracks they raced on is probably damn Oxford Plains.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we all know that ain't a big joint at all.
That's right. That's right.
So that's where he's always cut his teeth at, was on them little bull rings, and I'm like, dude, we should do pretty decent. And then we unloaded on Friday, and we sucked ever living ass. I was like, oh, great, this is gonna be friggin' miserable. And we fought on it and worked on it, changed shit all day long, and finally, the last run of the day, we put some tires on it, and we went P1 overall for the day. And I was like, oh shit, pulled that out of our ass. And then was able to go out there Saturday, and I think we got the pole with a 07, and Parker ran a 08, and I was like, holy hell.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, maybe we've got something. And then just didn't have the finish, that we wanted, but I think we ended up third. But
yeah.
But it was good, first time ever being there. Of course, you'd love to win them, but hell, Rich Petty didn't win them all. So.
That's right.
So, Jonathan, who was spotting for Welch? Because they ran 3 wide around that damn place for about 2 laps, and I'm sure either somebody wasn't spotting real good or somebody just said go balls out, because he was running 3 wide around that place for like 3 laps, man. It was crazy to watch that.
Yeah, that would have been me. I told when John made it 3 wide, I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, don't lift. I said, don't you fucking lift. I said, you lift, we're going to wreck. And that's just something, luckily, that's him trusting me, and then me as a racer seeing what would have happened automatically. If he would have checked up, Parker would have came down, Hal would have came up, they'd have turned them across their nose, and we'd probably all 3 been in the fence in the middle of 3 and 4. So I was like, just hold your line. I said, if you're stuck in the middle, you're 3 wide, hold your damn line. We got beat around like a damn ping pong ball, got the toe knocked out, but yeah, it was eventful. I was like, holy shit, this ain't good.
Yeah, no, that's the beauty of having a driver as a spotter. you get that. I'm in the seat, I'm in the seat. Let me put myself in there. So let me ask you, dude. So the tires. I mean, a lot of folks. I mean, I talked about it with Gina, a couple of weeks ago when we did that update thing. When she came to me about American Racer, and unbeknownst to us at that point, Hoosier was going to have a shortage or whatever. Your thoughts on those tires? I really think that American racers come up to the up at the plate, and they've done a great job with a really good tire that gets better. And tires usually fall off, but everything that I've heard, and you guys have enough laps on these tires, do they really get better the longer you go?
Yes, they don't. They definitely stay more consistent and all. What a lot of people don't know is about 3 years ago, a guy that was running Mobile actually done a tire test. And I brought my Outlaw. We brought our Outlaw, the one that I raced for, a guy. We brought it to the track and done a tire test. And I told him, I was like, I'm absolutely in love with this tire. And it was, we would do a practice run to get the heat cycle in them like you're supposed to. Then we do 2-lap qualified, have heat race. Then for the feature, we done a 30-lap run, but we went 10 laps, balls to the wall at first, then took a caution break, fired back off after about 2 or 3 laps. And I think if we would, like on the Sportsman, they would be fantastic, but unfortunately, fortunate for some people, unfortunate for some, we've been caution-free on them. So we haven't had a time for them to cool off and then get that result for them to fire back off.
Yeah.
Because in the Outlaw, after I'd take that little break, that caution break, we would go back green, and one lap that son of a bitch would fire off just as good as it was whenever I made the mock qualifying run, and it would stay that way for about 3, 4 laps, and then all of a sudden that son of a bitch would go just wicked, and it would put it back in the driver's hand, and you'd run it for 2 or 3 laps, and then it'd go back to being Superman again. So it was, for me, it was awesome because you never knew what the hell you was actually going to get from lap to lap, but you was still fast. But it's like somehow in the tires, whenever it got to a certain temperature or whatever, it would fire off, and then it would just have like a greasy type feel, but it was still fast. You had to will it, and that's what I think a lot of people nowadays don't understand. They're like, oh, tires. We need tires. We need tires. Nobody knows how to wheel a race car anymore. Everybody just goes, well, put some tires on, put some tires on it. Luckily, we're poor broke asses, so we know how to run on old shit and know what to expect at the end of a run. But I love them. I ran all year on the same left sides on my sportsman car of the 4 races we ran. I ran the left sides all 4 races and put 2 right rears on it. So I never put a whole set. After we bought the set at the beginning of the year, we never put a full set back on it. There wasn't no sense in it. And I'm not going to piss away $250 for 2 tires that I might gain 500ths or a 10th off of. I can make up that little bit in my driving.
That's right.
So I love the idea from the get-go whenever they started talking about the American Racer. And for the longest time growing up, Pensacola and Mobile was not ever on the same playing field, not the same rules. And that's what I told everybody. I was like, we got to do something to get off the same thing that Pensacola's doing. It ain't been working for us. So why in the hell keep following in that direction? Mobile is Mobile. We need to go back to our route, be different and everything. And the American Racer was the first step towards going that direction, in my opinion.
I agree. Totally.
So, Jonathan, how much crossover is there really from Mobile to Pensacola? It's kind of like when we talk about the crossover between getting Texans to travel and people to come back out here. You get the couple of the outliers that do it, like you guys did when y'all came to Houston. But how many people is there? Is there more people that go to Pensacola from Mobile than Pensacola area coming down to Mobile?
Mm-hmm.
Has it always been that way?
God. Well, for about unless it was snowball week, usually nobody from Mobile went across the pond. Is what we call the bay, the Mobile Bay.
Love it.
We call it going across the pond.
Yeah.
And for years, nowadays I go Pensacola. 90% of everybody that races over there, we all talk, hang out. Oh hell no! 20 years ago, that was like, you just don't do that shit. It was the Hatfields and McCoys. You had Brusso on your show a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure she could have told you a bunch of stories about back in the day with Brusso and Mercer and Carlson and all them coming over to Mobile. It never really ended up pretty. It was one of them good rivalry tracks.
Yeah.
And now you've lost that rivalry.
Yeah.
But whenever Pensacola races, you've got, man. Now I'm not here to bash track by no means.
No.
It's just the economy's collapsed so much, and the racing world's just, people sound so much other things. We've lost so many cars just to dirt tracks,
Yeah.
But when we go to Pensacola, we're probably making up easy 50% of the field in your lower 2 divisions.
Yeah.
And it sucks because we'll go over there and, support these guys and their track and all. But other than Bubba Winslow and Caruso, and I think Jeremy Tyson has came once this year and ran the Sportsman. But other than that, we've had 3 drivers from Pensacola come to Mobile this year.
Yeah.
And that sucks. It makes you on a Friday night while you're driving over there, especially me, I'm like, why in the hell am I doing this?
Right.
You know?
Right.
It costs me twice as much to come over here to support these guys, and ain't a near damn one of them coming over here to support my track.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of the night, it's just, it don't really take much whenever you've got a rivalry with somebody, and it's somebody that don't support your track, and you're like, you know what? The hell with you. You don't support my track.
Right.
I ain't no favoritism here, bitch.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a weird thing here, Jonathan. You know, in Texas, when we had a lot of asphalt tracks, I mean, guys would come from Austin to Corpus Christi, which is like way the hell down there, and I mean, they would go back and forth to do that, and I mean, that's the thing that I've always been so confused about. There is why that doesn't come back to you guys there. But I got to tell you, the one thing that I'm so impressed with Mobile is, you know, even with the track being shut down, I mean, when we started up again, and I'm a stock car guy. I raced street stocks for a long ass time. To see all those pure stocks and all those sportsmen, I mean, that's the grassroots thing right there. Man, those are the badass classes, and you guys showed up, and I think that's really cool.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's like, I love the sportsman class.
Oh, for sure.
I've read trucks, I've read outlaws, but sportsmen, you know, that's my baby. It don't matter what I'm in, whether it be my old car or the car that I'm driving now. You know, I don't give a shit. You give me a sportsman to run at Mobile, I'm gonna run that son of a bitch. I don't care whose it is. I don't care if it's a damn top notch or if it's a piece of shit. As long as it's safe, the hell with it. I'm getting in there and driving.
But
I love sportsmen. I've always said that's the class and that's the car. About a couple of years ago, I was running triple duties at Mobile. I was running a sportsman, outlaw, and a truck all season long, every week.
Yeah.
And people are like, dude, why in the hell do you kill yourself? And why are you bothering running a sportsman? I'm like, dude, you don't understand. As bad as you've got to wheel this thing, I'm sitting in my lazy boy whenever I get into this thing.
Right.
It's 15 minutes of relaxing for me. It's no different than me sitting on the back of the trailer in front of a fan, you know. And then I can get in that thing, wheel it around, make it my bitch.
Yeah.
And still not be wore out like I am in the damn trucks and outlaws.
Isn't that really the best part? I mean, you get in there and you got to drive the damn thing. And I mean, I think that's where, you know, we have a factory stock on dirt here in Texas that we've been talking about. And it's kind of the equivalent to me of a sportsman because it's supposed to be stock, you know, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, you get in that thing and you just drive the fuck out of it.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah. Like I said, I love them.
Yeah.
I can do pretty much anything in one of them sportsmen and luckily get away with it now.
That's right.
Hell, I've drove the son of guns for down so long. It's natural to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get in an outlaw or a truck, I suck ass. But I do that half the time in the sportsman anyway. So.
It's great. That's great.
So, Jonathan, we're getting some questions off the Facebook feed. The first one that comes to mind that is the most prevalent to the conversation is Alan Alexander wants us to ask you if you can help him get VIP tickets to the candy store.
I don't go to the candy store. That son of a bitch is too rough for me. We'll go to Diamonds for the Lee Field on Friday. When he comes down from Texas and to race the sportsman and his son comes and brings the modified and the outlaw, we'll make a trip to Diamonds over there on airport. They're a lot nicer over there.
Yeah, a couple. I talked to a couple of the last race. I talked to a couple of these dumbasses from Texas and went to the candy store. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I've went in there once in my life, and that was the worst $10 in cover charge and the worst $3, $4 I've ever spent on a beer because I walked, me and a buddy of mine walked and found us a chair and we sat down and I enjoyed half my beer and I chugged the other half and said, fuck this, let's get the hell out of here.
Not quite the Snickers you were looking for at the candy store.
No, definitely not. If I go anywhere, it's Diamonds. But the old lady, she tries to keep me out of them son of bitches now. I don't understand.
Yeah, I've been told. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. What else we got there? Alexander says he's going back. Oh, he don't care. I mean, whatever.
Oh, man.
He's got money. But so seriously, man. I mean, Jonathan, for you guys, I mean, isn't it so cool? I mean, we see all the money in the sport, and you talk about running trucks and outlaws and all the different stuff, but the grassroots stuff, and I mean, you guys are grassroots guys. I mean, we're just sitting here talking. This is what racing is all about. What we're doing tonight. I mean, isn't that so cool? I mean, you got to just love this sport.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. That's why 9 times out of 10, if I go to a racetrack, I don't even race. I'm there to bullshit and drink beer more than I am to watch racing half the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just enjoy bullshit and shooting the shit, and this is what it's all about to me. You know, it's awesome to race, and at the end of the night have good finishes. But hell, if I have a shitty night and tear the car up, whatever, guess what? I've got some usually about a case of blue things in my ice chest, 12 ounces tall. They gotta make it better by the end of the night.
Yes, sir. End of the night, you're a winner no matter what.
That's right.
That's about the way that works, man. Man, this has been fun, my brother. Like I said, man, it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys, and thanks for coming down here. I mean, seriously, like I probably thanked you more than I should have, you know, because the longer we sat in that parking lot, the more sentimental I get. But I thought it was so cool that you guys showed up. I mean, that's
oh yeah, man, it was great.
That is so freaking awesome.
I enjoyed just hanging out at the damn motel after the races. You know, that was pretty cool. That's usually what we do on Saturday nights at Mobile. Anytime we just do it in the parking lot.
That's right.
That's like I call Mobile.
Yeah.
Us and the McDonald's. You know, we hooked up pretty good over the past 3 years now. I've still never got the stickers made to put on them, but I've started calling us Out Front Taverns. You know, we load up and get Mr. Larry to run us out of the pits and everything, and we're like, all right. He's like, take your asses out front. We're like, Out Front Taverns we are. And so we go sit out in the parking lot, and God almighty, I couldn't tell you how many times I've watched the sun come up at Mobile.
Oh, dude.
In the parking lot in front of the grandstands. Just,
man, that's
whether it was before I was supposed to be drinking or since I've been drinking.
See,
Mountain Dew bottles are awesome.
That's why we get along so well, man. I grew up at the Austin track here. We had a track outside of Austin, and I mean, same thing. I mean, it was like, okay, I'm about 14 and I'm totally drunk here, but I mean, yeah, you know, whatever. I mean, that's what we do.
I blame it on Jimmy Day mostly. Whenever we was younger, he'd tell us, go find you a Mountain Dew bottle.
That's great.
So we finally got to the point where we was bringing a Mountain Dew to the track with us in the ice chest, and I don't think it ever really got drank.
Yeah.
He got poured out.
That's a funny thing. You keep holding that bottle all night. It's like, you know, like the Iron Claw.
Like, hell yeah. I'm drinking this shit. I got an ice chest full of them, knowing damn good and well your dad's sitting over there watching you like, yeah, you ain't fooling me, you little bastard.
That's right, my man. That is how we do it, man. That is how we do it.
Absolutely.
Super good stuff, dude. Thanks for checking in. I loved how when you messaged me yesterday, it's like, how long are we going to talk? I'm like, it may go off the rails, and it did.
I'm good with it. Usually, I don't get the joking cut up, and you got to be semi a little professional whenever you're on the Prater show, and you only get like 5 minutes to talk.
That's not how we do it here.
I like it on here. Cut up bullshit. Hell, I've been drinking beers the whole time I've been talking to you. I'm good. Now I'm about to go in here and get on iRacing and see how much shit I can tear up at Iowa tonight in a league race that I run.
So what we doing, my brother?
She wants to throw that son of a bitch out the back door so bad. Yeah, she said, well, how long's the race tonight? You got another race tonight? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the radio show with the podcast with Rodney first, and then I'll get off and race. And she was like, well, how long is that race supposed to be? I'm like, be off around 10. She's like, oh, my God. She I'm so sick of this shit. I'm like, hell, sorry. If I'm not out in the shop, I'm either in my game room racing. If I'm not in the shop or in my game room racing, I'm actually somewhere racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'll be so glad whenever October gets here. She'll get about a month or so month of relaxing with me, and which she thinks that, and it probably won't happen. But and then we'll go spend the week over in Pensacola, and then she might be able to get about altogether a week out of the 3-month off season to hang out with me.
You'll have to find a fancy Taco Bell. You got Taco Bells over there? Find a fancy Taco Bell.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I wear Taco Bells out. They don't like me so much, but I wear that shit out.
That's right. That's good shit, man. That is the #1 taco in the country, apparently. So it's good shit.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw that. So anyway, good stuff, dude. Kick some ass tonight, brother. Drink some more Mountain Dew and go win that damn iRacing race.
Hell yeah, you know it. Well, I look forward to seeing y'all, man. God, I love whenever you come down. Just the comments I've had from everybody this year with your announcement, you know, I'm like, yeah. I sit in the stand, I stand there in the pit, and hell, I just try to listen to you commentating everything the races. I'm like, oh, this dude's so fucking kick ass.
I wondered if that was going to work over there. I mean, because that's the way I've always done it. And I told Gina, I'm like, it's kind of a different style. She's like, you better not do anything different. Just do it like you do it. But
don't change it a bit.
Yeah.
You've got this shit.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's been a great reception, and thank you, family. I mean, you guys, you're my family. I got an Alabama cap now that I wear every now and then with my Texas cap. So good stuff, brother.
Yeah. Hell yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
as long as it's not A&M.
Oh, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thanks for checking in, dude. Go win a race and drink some Mountain Dew.
All right, brother. I had a blast. Thank y'all.
You bet, man. Take care. All right, man.
All right,
later. Oh, man.
The one and only. Yes.
The Langhams. These Alabama people, man, they are really, spicing up this program just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Good stuff. That was Jonathan Langham checking in, and that's really. I mean, these guys, they love the sport, and that's. I think that's the one thing, Bobby. Listening to these guys, where we talk about how we've lost, some of the asphalt stuff in Texas. I mean, that's what we had in Texas in the 90s. And these guys are getting to relive it. And I mean, we've got plenty of dirt here, and we've talked this. I mean, with Whitaker. Whitaker, great conversation tonight. But tying those two back to back, those are racing families, those are racing guys, and that's really what this sport is all about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's we've talked about it before. Is that the competition side of racing is one thing, but the camaraderie and the friendships and the lifelong connections that you make working with stuff at the racetrack is something that you can't replace anywhere else. It's not the same as looking at football on a Friday night or football on a Saturday. Sure, you can make lots of memories sitting there talking about Roll Tide and all of that good stuff, and War Eagle and all that good stuff. But there's something more close-knit about a racing family than a football family that you just can't replicate. It's meeting up with the new family like the Langhams and Welch, man, and some of these other guys, JJ Day, meeting up with those guys and expanding the friendship is what makes this such a cool deal with Mobile.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tanu, for the nice words right there. I mean, it's when you get guys like that that check in, I mean, it makes for just great conversation. And I think that's one of the most the coolest things for all of us is that now you have that tie-in. I mean, we have the Texas influx with the dirt racing and the guys that do that well here. But now we've got, we got that Alabama, Mississippi, Florida family, and I think it's so weird. I would have never thought this before now, that you had that divide between Pensacola. I mean, Pensacola, Five Flags, they don't need any help. I mean, they're their own, like the monster. I mean, they control everything, and it's so weird to actually hear that there's some divide there along the Gulf Coast. I would have never thought that before.
But interesting. I mean, it's kind of like there was that divide that time between Austin and San Antonio, between Longhorn and San Antonio, where you had diehard guys that wanted to run. You win the championship at Longhorn, and your next goal was not to move up a class. You moved up to San Antonio Speedway. You saw that a lot. Back in hell, you did it yourself. Running from Longhorn, running to San Antonio. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was bad blood between the two tracks, but they were so close yet so different. That I can see where it could be a hard time between Mobile and Pensacola being both big old fast half miles.
Yeah. And that's one of the things there where I've often wondered about that, because I did hear that this year. It's like, I mean, why would we want to go run anywhere else? I mean, I talked to Welch about that, getting away from the half miles, go run the 3/8. And I know it's a long way. I know Texas is a long ass way. We've done that drive. And Bobby, do you realize we are 1 month away from the snowball preview and the pageant? It's 1 month.
Really?
1
that
month
close,
away.
huh?
November 19th is when that goes down. So we are knocking on that door. I mean, this is such a great time of year. I mean, you have all the big dirt races. You have snowball that everybody's looking forward to. Winchester was just done. The NASCAR playoffs are going on. The baseball CSs are going on. NFL, college football. This is a great time of year. I mean, summer is great. Summer because we're racing, every other week or whatever it is. But this is when it really gets fun. It's cooler. I mean, the weather feels better. But, man, I wish it could be this time of year all year.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a good time of year, especially when your college football teams are doing well. It makes it a lot more fun and a lot more exciting. It's a great time of year. It's a good part and a bad part, because that the racing season's almost over, but yet here you are with the big shows, and everybody gets excited for the Snowball Derby, and everybody will be there. We'll see the same people. We'll see the same racers. Hell, we'll probably get to drink a lot more beer this time than we did last time, because we're going to know so many more people this time when we go down there.
Yeah, that is a cool part, to have that footprint, now. And I think that it's been really cool that now we do have that. I mean, we've known a lot of people, and the Texans have known a lot of people, just from past experience. But I think that one of the cool parts is that now Texas has kind of established new relationships with down home people. And I can tell you, for me, like talking to Langham, and even with Stevie, I mean, it's a good night, because we're like we say, #real race talk. That's what we're doing, and it's pretty cool. It's a good night for this show. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Definitely some sound bites, especially when Jonathan was talking about, well, hell, I didn't know I could say that on here.
Yeah. Hardly PC on this program. I mean, we just kind of let it
Did he
fly.
not listen to the Cody Brusso interview?
Well, I think he did. I know he mentioned that. I know he mentioned that. That was good. I mean, that was a fun show. Both guys.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Both guys. And I mean, I think that's the main thing. It's just good racers, and that's what this sport's all about.
That's what it starts. It starts about with the good racers that turn into good racing families. They turn into good racing friends, and that's the part that makes the most out of it.
That's exactly right. Fall Classic coming up at Heart of Texas. Get yourself out there. Go watch that racing. That is going to be massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Championship night down at Texana with the South Texas Late Model, Southern Texas Touring Late Model Series. I have to get that right before I go down there for championship night. So if you're up north, go to the Fall Classic. If you're down south, head over to Edna.
That's
Texana
right.
Raceway Park.
That's right. South and north. You got two great events coming up. And then on Sunday, if you want to sip some wine and cheese, go to Formula One. But good luck getting in there. But great program. I mean, thank you, Stevie Whitaker. Thank you, Jonathan Langham. Good night. Good night. You guys follow us on Twitter at RevvedUpATX. He's at Bobby Chaffee. I'm at The Rodney R. Keep liking those Facebooks. Share the hell out of this thing. Revved Up Sports
and YouTube.
Show. Yeah. Revved Up Sports
Don't forget about YouTube.
.tv. Till next week. #Real Race Talk from Texas.